Again, we are requesting everyone to turn off your microphones throughout the event. If you have any queries, especially during our forum, you may raise your questions and concerns in the comment section. Also, at the end of the program, the link to the evaluation form will be given to receive your certificates. Thank you. Good day, Escolarians. I am Alondra Marie F. Santo Domingo.
And I am Gabriel Shane Francisco. We are your Masters of Ceremonies for this year's CEU Political Science Society, SULONG, the Philippine Democracy in the 21st Century.
Hello, partner! Excited ka na ba for today's event?
Of course, partner, dahil balita ko, we will be having high-caliber speakers today.
Exactly. Pero hindi lang yan. Because today is also a historical moment for the political science program. Dahil ito ang very first event ng ating newly born organization. Kaya naman, wag na natin itong patagalin pa. Allow us now to share to you the objectives of our program.
First, to know the current democratic climate in the Philippines. Second, to know the importance of youth in defending democracy. Before we begin this morning's program, let us bring ourselves in the presence of the Lord as we listen to Mr. Shael Joshua P. Sanchez to lead us with a song of praise, to be followed by the singing of the Philippine National Anthem.
As the deer panteth for the water, so my soul longs after you. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship you. You alone are my strength, my shield. You alone make my spirit yield. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship you. I want you more than gold or silver, only you can satisfy. You alone are the real joy giver and the apple of my eye. You alone are my strength, my shield. You alone may my spirit yield. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship you. You're my friend and you're my brother, even though you are a king. I love you more than any other, so much more than everything. You alone are my strength, my shield. To you alone may my spirit yield. You alone are my heart's desire and I long to worship you.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas. Kayang magiliw, tewas magsilanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyag ka ng magiting, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa nagagang tutok sa simoy at sa langit ng bangaw, ay ginagang tulakawin sa paglayang minamahal. Ang isang ng matawag ko'y tagumpay na naghihiling, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pang ay di maghihiling. Luman ang araw ng walhagin pagsingka, buhay langit sa piling mo. Ang ligaya na pagkay mamangin, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
To officially start our program, let us have the hardworking and ever-supportive Political Science Program Head and the CEU Political Science Society Advisor, Professor Julius O. De Leon.
Dr. Maria Cristina D. Padulina, President and Chief Academic Officer. Dr. Maria Rita D. Lucas, the Dean of the School of Education, Liberal Arts, Music, and Social Work. Mr. Diariel J. Habeliana, the Head of the Social Sciences and Humanities Department. Distinguished Speaker, Mr. Melchor Cayabyab, the Supervising Training Specialist from the Commission on Human Rights. Faculty members, officers and members of the Political Science Society, students, alumni and guests, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant morning to all. Several years ago, the political science students already applying to have an organization of their own to express and articulate their knowledge and skills in the field of politics and governance, constitution and of the laws, international relation, and social responsibility. After years of persistence and perseverance of our student leaders, the Administrative Council of the University, led by our dear President, Dr. Maria Cristina D. Padulina, approved and eventually recognized the existence of the Political Science Society. With that, we are forever grateful to them. And now, we are already started our journey towards greater heights with this first General Assembly with the theme, The Philippine Democracy in the 21st Century. To political scientists, democracy is a government by common consent. Hence, it minimizes the danger of revolution as the people can easily make the necessary changes in the government by peaceful and legitimate means, and that is through the ballot or election. As democracy encourages all citizens to take interest in their government, strengthening the spirit of nationalism and patriotism, principles and tenets have developed and come to be embraced in an ever-enlightened society. Democracy educates the people on the science of politics by giving them the experience in governing themselves, and democracy inculcates a sense of responsibility among the people, making them realize the fact that the success or failure of their government depends mainly on them. History shows that democracy is so far the best form of government that safeguards the rights and liberties of the people. With that, may I call on the students to defend the ideals of democracy against those unscrupulous people who are trying to discredit and undermine the duly constituted authorities. As students of politics and governance and political science, you will become a respected voice of reason and moderation against the hysterical mob who are trying to destroy the very foundation of democratic process. In closing, may this webinar rekindle your commitment to uphold the democratic rights and principles that we cherish. May the Almighty and Eternal God, the Supreme Judge, Lawgiver, and Ruler of the universe, who has the final word on everything we do upon this earth, continue to bless and protect us in these trying times. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Julius De Leon, for your opening remarks. That indeed is an emotional and exciting moment for our community, and we do hope to continue to spread the nationalistic fire in each individual and protect our democracy. Now, we would like to invite the ever-dynamic President, Chief Academic Officer of Centro Escolar University, Dr. Maria Cristina D. Padulina, to give us an inspirational message.
Good morning to everyone and greetings of peace to all of you, to our very dynamic Dean of the School of Education, Liberal Arts, Music, and Social Work. Pinakamahabang pangalan ng school sa CEU, Dean Maria Rita Lucas, the head of our Department for Social Sciences and Humanities, Professor Ariel Javillana, and the program head of our Political Science program, Mr. Professor Julius De Leon, our students, especially the officers of the Political Science Society of CEU, and the members, and also to our guest speaker, Mr. Melchor Cayabyab, for this morning. Good morning to all of you. I would like, first of all, to congratulate the officers and members of the Political Science Society on two counts. First is that you were able to get your society moving during this time of the pandemic, when, many things seems to be at a standstill. But the fact that you were able to move forward with your organization is a mark of the dynamism that you have within you, and it portends to the future of the society. The second congratulations is for choosing a very appropriate theme for your first General Assembly, and that is SULONG, Philippine Democracy in the 21st Century. This is indeed very relevant for our time in the Philippines because we are preparing for a very important election next year, and it's time for us to start thinking about how we will participate in these elections for next year. It's very important that we participate well, because this will affect 6 years of the next 6 years of our country. And this is very vital because during these 6 years, we will see all countries recovering from the pandemic. And how our country will recover will depend a lot on the people who will be in our government. But sometimes we need to remember that what happens to our democracy should not be left to those who govern, but should also be those that are who are governed should make a good contribution also to the outcomes of our government and to the realization of a true democracy in the Philippines. So we hope that you will be leaders in our university in bringing forth a good participation of our students as citizens of the Philippines. And your discipline is very important. And Aristotle has said that political science is is a master science or the master science. And that reminds me of my own field, which is chemistry. Chemistry, on the other hand, is referred by many as the central science because everything depends on what matter, okay, is made of. The atoms and the molecules that make up matter, everything, all the properties of things that we see around us depend on how those atoms and molecules are put together and are structured. In the same way, Aristotle referred to political science as the master science because it influenced many aspects of human life. Okay, not just politics, but international politics as well. Um, what else? Political philosophy, of course, and the law. And of course, the discipline has or overlaps with many other disciplines, economics, anthropology, and other social science disciplines. So your field is a very, very important field. And congratulations to all of you who have chosen political science as a discipline to pursue for your undergraduate degree. So to all of that, really, good wishes to each student in the political science program and good wishes also for your organization and for the leadership potential that you have within you as individuals and as you as an organization. Congratulations and God bless.
Thank you so much, Dr. Padalina, for the beautiful message you provided to our Escolarians and for gracing this humble event of the Political Science Society. Truly, your words motivated us more to do better for the benefit of not just the members of PSS, but also for the entire CEU community and the country. We would also like to acknowledge the presence of the CEU students from other colleges, CEU non-teaching staff, and some of the faculty members of CEU, starting with Dr. Maria Rita Lucas, the Dean of Salams, Dr. Dominadora Edulag, Mr. Ariel Havellana, Ms. Amelia Valencia, Mr. James Philip Monserrate, Dr. Ruth Santos, Dr. Sharon Galang, Ms. Alma Joy Galvez, Mr. Dominic de Guzman, Mr. Francisco Fojos, and Dr. Lani Saad. Thank you po for coming.
Escolarians, are you now ready for the first guest speaker of the CEU Political Science Society? Hindi na natin ito patatagalin pa, kaya naman let us have Mr. Angelo Gabriel Barba, our very own Public Relations Officer, to introduce our guest speaker.
Our resource speaker was a former public school teacher. He taught economics in Araulio High School for more than a decade and was awarded as Most Outstanding Social Studies Teacher in Manila in 2003. He was elected as Faculty Club President from 2009 to 2011 and was one of the founders and former Secretary General of the Teachers Dignity Coalition from 2006 to 2010. He was one of the facilitators, trainers of Amnesty International Filipinas from 2004 to 2006 and was one of the authors of Peace and Human Rights modules of SULONG CARHRIHL, an organization advocating human rights and international humanitarian law. In 2004, he was recognized by the UNESCO ESPnet because of his contributions in promoting peace and human rights. In 2013, he was appointed by the former President Benigno S. Aquino III as chairman of the board, head of agency, bureau director of Office of Transportation Cooperatives, one of the attached agencies of the Department of Transportation. And in January 2017, he started to be part of the Human Rights Education and Promotion Office of Commission on Human Rights as Supervising Training Specialist. Let us all welcome and give him a virtual applause. Our guest speaker for today, Mr. Melchor V. Cayabyab.
Okay, isang mapagpalang pagbati po sa lahat. Maraming salamat, Angelo, sa iyong pagpapakilala. Muli ay isang mapagpala at mapagpalayang pagbati po sa lahat. Sa ngalan ng Komisyon sa Karapatang Pantao ay nagpapasalamat kami sa imbitasyon sa amin na maging bahagi ng General Assembly ng inyong organisasyon, which is batay nga sa paliwanag. Ito yung kauna-unahang General Assembly ng Political Science Society ng Centro Escolar University, at kami ho ay naatasan na magbigay ng pagtalakay hinggil sa kalagayan ng demokrasya sa ating bansa sa ilalim ng titulong Sulong, the Philippine Democracy in 21st Century. Napapanahon ito na pag-usapan lalo na't may ilang pagtingin ng ating demokrasya ay under attack sa ilalim ng kasalukuyang administrasyon at nawe-weaponize yung ating mga batas tulad ng Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 to quell dissent and resistance. Atin itong susuriin gaano ito katotoo at kung maepekto ba ang mga nasabing pag-atake sa ating kalayaan at mga karapatan. So mag-share lang din po ako ng screen. Hingi lang po ako ng authority po sa host ninyo. Yun. Okay, so nakikita po ba mga ma'am, sir? Yung sa screen. Okay, salamat.
Yes po.
Okay, so iikot to yung aking magiging pagtalakay in 30 minutes. What is the current state of democracy in the Philippines? What kind of democracy does the Philippines have? How democratic is the Philippine society, and what is the future of democracy in the Philippines? So doon ho iikot yung aking magiging pagtalakay. Ganun pa man ay magiging honest po ako na may pagkabias yung aking presentation. Bias po ako para sa karapatang pantao. Ang gagamitin po nating lente o lens ng aking analysis ay ang human rights lens. So iikot po yung aking pagsukat sa kung ano ho yung ating demokrasya batay ho sa mga prinsipyo, sa mga universally accepted principles ng human rights. So anyway, ang sabi nga ho dyan ni Nelson Mandela, hindi naman natin pwedeng paghiwalayin yung demokrasya at human rights. Nasabi nga ho ni George Minnie, no democracy without human rights and no human rights without democracy. So balikan lang din ho natin yung sinasaad ng ating 1987 Constitution. Malinaw ho sa Article 2, Section 1 ay sinasabi, the Philippines is a democratic and republican state. So malinaw po, isa po tayong demokratikong bansa. Sovereignty resides in the people and all government authority emanates from them. So batay ho sa paliwanag na ito, lumalabas ho sa ilalim din ho ng Article 2, Section 4, the prime duty of the government is to serve and protect the people. Akmang-akma ho ito doon sa binigay na definition ni Abraham Lincoln doon sa usapin ng democracy. Democracy is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Ito ho ay mula doon sa, medyo babalik lang ho tayo ng konti sa ating Force 101, doon sa konsepto ho, sa teorya ng social contract, in which became popular in the 16th and 17th and 18th century among theorists such as Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and Rousseau as a means of explaining the origin of the government and the obligation of the subject. Sa ilalim ho nito, tinitingnan natin na yung mga mamamayan, yung mga tao ay nagsama-sama at nagkasundo para magbuo ng isang tinatawag nating panlipo ng kasunduan, which is ang tawag po natin is social contract, an implicit agreement among the members of society to cooperate for social benefits. Ang aming nga hong paliwanag diyan, we as a people forge a social contract with these few people, which is the state, to ensure that our foundation for a life of dignity and human rights are realized. Kaugnay nito, binigyan natin sila ng kapangyarihan, binigyan natin sila ng authority. At the same time, we entrust and centralize our collective interests and the management of our resources, natural resources, human resources to a few. Kapalit nun ay ang siguraduhin ng ating foundation for life of dignity and human rights are realized, at ang gobyerno ay inaasa natin that must respect, protect, and fulfill human rights by putting in place laws, policies, practice, institutions, infrastructures, services, and so forth. So malinaw ho na itinatadhana sa ilalim ng ating 1997 Constitution that human rights is a state obligation. At ang tawag ho natin sa modernong panahon ng social contract nito ay ang ating saligang batas na kung saan nandoon yung kaisahan at kasunduan sa pagitan ng namumuno at pinamumunuan. At sa ilalim ng konsepto ng social contract, ang gobyerno, ang duty bearer, at ang mamamayan ang rights holder. As ang government, as a duty bearer, may obligasyon na i-fulfill yung kanyang obligasyon sa mamamayan at ang mamamayan naman ay i-claim ang mga karapatang ito sa ilalim ho ng konsepto ng social contract. At malinaw ho sa Article 2, Section 11 that human rights is a state obligation. The state values the dignity of every human person. Sino ho ang nagbabalyo ng ating dignidad? Basically, ang Estado, and guarantees for respect for human rights. So, ang gobyerno, sa pamagitan ng iba't ibang struktura nito, ay may obligasyon to respect, protect, fulfill, and promote human rights na yung kanyang three branches, equal branches of government, yung executive, legislative, judiciary, including the constitutional commissions katulad ng CHR, ay may obligasyon lahat ng ito na isakatuparan yung kanyang pangunahing obligasyon. Ang siguraduhin na nare-respeto, na igagalak na isa sa katuparan ang ating mga karapatang pantao. Of course, with check and balance mechanism according to 1987 Constitution. Ngayon ang tanong, what is the current state of democracy in the Philippines? Ang gagamitin ho nating panukat ay yung ginamit ho na panukat ng international community, particularly ng Economist Intelligence Unit at ng World Justice Project at ng Human Rights Index na ginawa ho ng Human Rights Watch. So basically, so sinasabi nila, the Philippines rank 55 or rank 55 out of 167 countries in the Democracy Index noong 2020 as released by London-based think tank Economist Intelligence Unit. Sa ilalim ho nito, nakakuha ho tayo ng average score na 6.56, which is considered as bahagi ho ng tinatawag nating flawed democracy, which is mamaya ipapaliwanag ko ho. Pero as rank 55, tayo ho ay bumagsak ng 4 na ranggo. Kasi noong 2017, tayo po ay 51st, 53rd in 2018 at 54th in 2019. Ano ho yung ipinapakita? Ito ho ay patuloy na pagdaos-dos ng demokrasya sa Pilipinas sa nagdaang 5 taon. And the country recorded an average of 6.56 points, which is mababa din ho ito kung ikukumpara sa 6.94 noong 2016 at 6.84 noong 2015. At bagamat mataas ho tayo sa electoral process and pluralism, bagsak ho tayo in political culture, which is 0.438. Tayo po ay 5 lang in functioning government at mamaya titignan ho natin yung sa usapin ng rule of law index kung gaano kalaki yung ibinaba natin sa nagdaang 4 o 5 taon. So, lumalabas, as a flawed democracies, tayo ay kabilang ho doon sa 52 countries na nakakuha ng score na 6.01 to 8 points. Konti na lang, actually yung 6.56, pwede na ho tayong bumagsak into hybrid regimes. At ano ho ba yung kaibahan ng mga ito? Pag sinabi natin flawed democracies, these are nations where elections are fair and free, malaya, patas, and basic civil liberties are honored, but may have issues, particularly sa media freedom infringement, sa suppression of political opposition and critics. These nations have significant faults in other democratic aspects, including underdeveloped political culture, low level of participation in politics, ang halos participation lang ho ng marami ay yung pagboto niya, and issues in the functioning governance. Malayo ito doon sa tinatawag ho nilang full democracies where civil liberties and fundamental political freedoms are not only respected but also reinforced by a political culture conducive to the thriving democratic principles. These nations have valid systems of governmental check and balances, independent judiciaries whose decisions are enforced, governments that function adequately, and diverse and independent media. These nations have only limited problems in democratic functioning. So kung titignan natin, so ang Philippines, mataas lang ho tayo doon sa electoral process and pluralism. But the rest, halos mababa tayo at halos may tuturing ho tayong isang hybrid regimes. Ano ho yung hybrid regimes? These nations commonly have governments that apply pressure on political opposition, non-independent judiciaries, widespread corruption, harassment, anemic rule of law, pressure placed on the media, more pronounced faults and flawed democracies in the realms of underdeveloped political culture, low level of participation in politics and issues functioning governance. Kung hindi nga lang ho tayo mataas, gaya ng binanggit ko kanina, kung hindi lang ho tayo mataas sa score ho natin sa electoral process and pluralism, mananatili ho tayong may malaking problema at may tuturing tayong bilang isang hybrid regime. Ngayon, ano ho ba ibig sabihin noong 9.17 political process and pluralism? Ibig sabihin may regular na nagaganap na eleksyon, may mga tumatakbo, kaya nga ho pluralism, may iba't ibang political party na nakikilahok sa eleksyon. Pero ang sabi dyan nila Dr. Teresa Encarnacion Tadem at Dr. Eduardo C. Tadem ng University of the Philippines, hindi ito pwedeng basta tignan ng Pilipinas dahil nga may regular na eleksyon at marayang tumakbo ang sinuman, ay may tuturing na ito ay isang malaya at patas na eleksyon. Dahil meron tayong perennial problem of political dynasties, which generally refer to traditional political families or the practices by these political families of monopolizing political power and public offices from generation to generation and treating the public elective office almost as their personal property. Makikita ho ninyo yan na may mga syudad na ang mayor hanggang sa baba ay halos sila din. Mayor ang tatay, vice mayor ang nanay, ang mga anak ay konsihal at iba pang aspeto, sila din ho yung tinatawag ho nating siya rin nilang congressman, sila din ho yung tinatawag nating governor at iba pa. So, sabi ng pag-aaral nila Dr. Tadem, lumalabas na it showed that all 80 provinces have political families and 74% ng members ng House of Representatives come from political families. Ito ho yung mga pamilya na bagamat malaya na makatakbo ang sinuman ay halos imposibleng talunin. Dahil nga sa malalim na political na capital na mayroon ng mga pamilyang ito na produkto ng mahabang panahon ng nasa gobyerno at nakapag-develop ng malalim na patronage politics bunga ng mga services na pinagkaloob ng gobyerno ng mga nagdaan. Na kung saan, sinasabi nga ho ni Dr. Tadem, paano mo sasabihin na mayroong malaya at patas na eleksyon kung in the very first place, itong mga ito ay hindi natin pwedeng talunin. Ako ho, dating political officer ng isang partido political, hindi ko na lang din ho sasabihin, sa karanasan ko sa paglilibot, lumalabas na yung mga tinatawag nating mga political families na ito, meron talagang nakatanim, hindi ho bawat barangay, kung hindi bawat presinto na inaalagaan ho nila ng mahabang panahon na sigurado ho nilang iboboto. Kung ang isang presinto ay binubuo ng 200 na individual, halos kalahati ng mga ito ay kanilang mga botante. Mga naikukuman nila kasi ito yung mga naalagaan nila sa mahabang panahon at tinututukan nila, which is magiging imposible para sa sinuman ang talunin sila. At itong mga political families na ito ay may malaking papel sa pagpapanalo ng mga national candidates. Kaya nga hindi lamang doon sa kanilang probinsya, sila din ay may malaking control sa usapin ng pagtatakda ng mga pulisiya at kung sino yung mamumuno sa isang national government. So sinasabi ng nila Dr. Tadem, hanggat ito ay perennial problem, hindi totoo na malaya at patas yung tinatawag nating electoral process sa ating bansa. Pero as of law democracies din, ay kakikita nito ng media freedom imprisonment and suppression of political oppositions and critics, in which sinisigaw ho ng mga journalists yung increasing censorship of the free press with the continued closure of largest network, yung ABS-CBN, yung pagkakatanggal ng kanyang prangkisa, and continued attacks, whether legal or in other forms, against Rappler CEO, Maria Ressa. Sinasabi, halimbawa, kakapanood ko lang kanina, yung interview ni Senator Bato, na sinasabi niya, hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na attack sa media yung pagpapasara sa ABS-CBN. Sabi niya, in the very first place, ABS-CBN lang yan. Andyan pa rin ang iba pang mga istasyon na kung saan malaya na nakagagawa ng kanilang trabaho. Pero simple lang ho ang punto. Ang sabi ho ng mga journalist dyan, ang atake sa isa is atake sa lahat. Kasi meron itong chilling effect. Nasa totoo lang naman, sa mga nakakausap namin ho, ng mga miyembro ng National Union of Journalists of the Philippines, medyo ingat na ho yung marami sa kanila na hindi basta-basta na makapag-criticize sa gobyerno sa takot na sila mismo ay balikan. Katunayan, hindi ko na sasabihin isang network na yung isang kanilang pinag-initan sa Malacanang, yung kanilang reporter, hindi sila nakapalag. Ang tanging nagawa nila ay alisin ang reporter na ito sa Malacanang beat. Na in the very first place, ang ginawa lang naman ng reporter na ito ay i-fact-check yung sinabi ng Pangulo. So, yung may mga ganitong chilling effect, at the same time, kahit yung atake kay Maria Ressa, na isang pundasyon kung bakit nanalo din siya ng Nobel Peace Prize, ay dahil din mismo sa panggigipit ng kasalukuyang gobyerno. Ganyan din ho ang karanasan natin, naging karanasan nila Senator Laila de Lima at dating Senador Sonny Trillanes. Si Senator Laila de Lima hanggang ngayon 5 taong nakakulong para sa isang gawa-gawang kaso ayon ho sa pananaw ng marami na kung saan ay wala namang material evidence pero natiling nakakakulong dahil as a pressure para sabihin sa sino man na kung sino man yung patuloy na magkikritisize sa gobyerno ay ganito ho yung inyong kagiging karanasan. The same with the case of Senator Trillanes na muling binuhay yung kanyang rebellion cases sa kabila na binigyan na ho siya ng amnesty ng dating Pangulong Aquino, which is gawa-gawa na buti na lang ay nakiisa yung korte at sabihin na ito ay mali. So ito hong mga ito, isa lang ho ang sinasabi. Kinakailangan ninyo na manahimik at huwag mag-criticize sa gobyerno kung hindi posibleng maranasan ninyo yung naranasan nila Senator Laila de Lima, nila Senator Trillanes at maging si Sister Pax, yung Australian na madre na kung saan ipinatapon labas ho ng ating bansa. So yun ho yung isang mga sitwasyon. Kami ho sa CHR noong 2017 ay kasama din ho sa prenesure at inatake. So prenesure kami na i-abolish daw kami. Buti na lamang ho, kami ho ay isang constitutional body which is hindi ho pwedeng basta abolish ng sino man, maliban na lang kung mababago ho yung ating 1987 Constitution. At hindi ho nagkasa doon. Tinangka na kami ay gipitin sa pamagitan ng budget, nang bigyan ho kami ng 1,000 budget. Buti na lang ay yung mamamayan, yung publiko ay nag-raise at nagsalita na hindi ito pwede at may offer pa nga sila na budget na mag-donate sila for CHR para magpatuloy kami sa aming mga gawain. At itong mga pressure na ito ay indikasyon ng patuloy na pagkipot ng civic spaces sa ating bansa, which is nararanasan na ho ng mga maraming civil society, the pattern of repression against civil society organization whereby governments utilize different methods to shrink the civic spaces. Anong ibig sabihin ng civic space? This is a set of universally accepted principles which allow people to organize, participate, and communicate with each other freely without hindrance. In doing so, influence the political and social structures around them. Sa kasalukuyan, sa pahayag ho mismo ng PhilRights, lumalabas na prename nila na kapag ikaw ay pumupuna sa pamahalaan, ikaw ay dinidestabilize mo ang gobyerno, which is sinasabi na mali. At itong gawain na ito ay nagpapatuloy sa anyo ng red tagging, activity monitoring, and funding control and monitoring. So kung makikita ho ninyo, halimbawa sa Alliance of Concerned Teachers, yung kanilang opisina tinadtad ng mga posters na sinasabi ng tatlong leader nila ay mga NPA. May mga karanasan ang mga komunidad na kung saan ay nagsasagawa sila ng activity, nandoon ang mga ahente ng pulisya at militar na kung saan ay sumasama sa discussion, and they would order to stop discussion they deem not positive for the government. Ganyan din ho yung ginawa nila na high-level lobby sa European Union at Geneva to stop funding suspected rights tulad ng Philippine Alliance of Human Rights Advocates ng karapatan group na gumagawa lang din ho ng kanilang gawain, which is siguraduhin na mag-investigate ng mga paglabag sa karapatang pantao. Hindi pa rin doon ho nagkasya, batay sa report ho ng wineponize pati yung iba't ibang government agencies para mag-profiling, yung DepEd ho, pinoprofiling yung mga miyembro ng Alliance of Concerned Teachers at ng Teachers Dignity Coalition. Yung SEC, ginawang mahirap at napakaraming mga dokumento ang hinihingi para sa mga tingin nila ay mga organisasyon ng mga aktivista at iba pa. Weaponization ng batas, perjury cases filed by General Esperon against leaders of karapatan, Gabriela Rural Missionaries, at maging yung mismong bangko na kung saan ay hinihingan na ng financial statement yung mga civil society organization na tulad ng ginawa sa Philippine Alliance of Human Rights Advocates. Ito ho ay sinasabi ho namin mga indikasyon na yung mismong civic space ay kumikipot na para doon sa malayang pagpuna ng mamamayan at pakikilahok ng mamamayan sa nangyayari sa kanyang bayan bilang isang may-ari nito. At kami ho ay dinadagsa ng mga reports ng atake at harassment against human rights defenders, against union leaders at members. Malinaw ho ang paninindigan dito ni Commission on Human Rights. We continue to denounce any form of attack against members of rights groups and its leaders. The government has the obligation to protect the rights of all, regardless of ideology and political affiliation. Accusation or actions against activists and union leaders must be done following due process, guidelines, and civil service ethics that are established to protect human rights. Activism is not a crime, kundi activism is a right. Yung pagpuna sa pamahalaan, yung pagpoprotesta hanggat ito ay mapayapa ay mga karapatan na pinoproteksyonan ng ating 1987 Constitution. Sabi nga ho ng aming spokesperson, we cannot have a government that operates merely on suspicions and disadvantages citizens for exercising a right that they are entitled to. At malinaw ho, ang sinasabi ho ni Ginny Gideon Lasco dyan, Calling out the government for failing to do its mandate is not complaining but part of engaged citizenship. Demanding greater accountability from the government should not be construed as acts to destabilize the administration, but rather as a reminder of its sworn duty to the people, which is respect, protect, and fulfill human rights. Ganun pa man, we clarify ang commission ho, para lang di naman ho tayo mangamba. The Commission on Human Rights has clarified that while it supports activism and the right to expression, it does not tolerate armed rebellion and the recruitment of children as combatants. Malinaw din ho ang aming pangamba doon sa weaponization ho ng batas sa pagkakapasa ho ng Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 at nirepealed nito yung Human Security Act of 2007. CHR expressed its views as to the unconstitutionality of the law and its non-conformity with international human rights principles. Nangangamba ho kami na posibleng malabag yung right to due process, right to presumption of innocence, yung freedom of expression dahil ho mismong napaka-vague and unclear ang definition ng terorismo sa nasabing batas. Hindi malinaw para sa mga mamamayan ano yung terorismo at ano yung hindi. Kaya nga labis din kami nangamba dahil pinapayagan ng batas yung tinatawag nating longer period of detention without warrant of arrest or judicial intervention, which is sa ilalim ng revised penal code natin, pinapayagan lang ng 36 hours na detention ang sino man na hindi nasasampahan ng kaso for a grave offense. Pero sa ilalim ho ng anti-terrorism law, kung saan kasama ho kami sa komisyon sa Supreme Court para i-declare ho ito constitutional, ay pinapayagan yung 14 days to 24 days na pagkakakulong ninuman na pinaghihinalaan nilang suspected terrorist ng walang isinasampang kaso. In which, hindi ho pinapayagan sa nirepeal ditong batas sa ilalim ng Human Security Act of 2007 na kung meron kang nakulong na hindi naman karapat-dapat na kukulong at pinaghinalaan mo lamang, magmumulta ang sino mang nagkulong sa kanila ng 500 pesos per day, which is nirepeal ito sa ilalim ho ng Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020. Malinaw ho mismo ang pahayag mismo dito ni CHR. Nang sabi ho namin, ang Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 ay batas na lumalaban sa terorismo, ay isang batas na kami ho mismo ay kinikilala na nangangalaga sa ating karapatang mabuhay at magbigay ng seguridad sa ating lipunan. Pero dapat hindi ito lumabag sa iba pang mga karapatang pantao. We can and we will prevail in the fight against terrorism when we fight for the dignity and human rights for all. That's a statement ho mula kay Commissioner Gwendolyn Pimentel-Gana, isa sa mga commissioner ho namin sa Commission on Human Rights. Padaos-dos ho yung democracy index natin sa ilalim ho ng kasalukuyang gobyerno, mas malala ho yung usapin ng rule of law under Duterte. It drops 51 places in 6 years at inilagay ho tayo ang bilang Asia's worst countries when it comes to rule of law. Hanay ho na ho natin yung Cambodia and Myanmar. So kung titignan ho natin, in 2015, rank 51 tayo, but it significantly dropped to 70 when Duterte became president in 2016 and has been on tailspin since, and the Philippines was ranked 91st in 2020 at 102nd place o rank 102 out of 139 countries sa panahon ng tinatawag nating 2021. So malaki ho yung pagdaos-dos natin sa aspect ng fundamental rights from 107 last year to 123 this year, criminal justice from 112 last year to 120 this year. At ito ho ay pinangangambahan ho ng karamihan ng mga abogado, particularly the National Union of People's Lawyers. So nasabi nila, nakababahala at nakahihiya na muli na namang nasa dulo ang Pilipinas sa isa pang listahan na sumusubaybay sa mga importanteng sukatan ng paggogobyerno. Tayo ho ay kulelat doon sa pandemic response, tayo ho ay kulelat doon sa usapin ng laban sa korupsyon. Ngayon naman ho ay kulelat din ho tayo. Actually, ang laki ho ng idinausdos mula sa usapin ng pagpapairal ng batas. Pinabubulaanan ng luulat ng mga ito ayon sa NUPL, ang pahayag ng rehimeng Duterte na gumagana ang sistemang legal at opisyal sa bansa. Refleksyon kung gaano kalalim ang ibinagsak ho ng bansa sa usapin ng pagtataguyod ng karapatang pantao. At malaking bahagi ho ng pagbagsak natin na ito ay ang dami ng namamatay sa bloody drug war ng pamahalaan at yung mga namamatay ho ng mga aktivista na dinudukot, inaatake at wala hong napapanagot. Katunayan, sa record po namin sa aming 2020 annual report on human rights situation in the Philippines, meron na hong 27,000 suspected drug peddlers had been killed since PRRD was elected to the presidency in 2016. and almost 250 human rights defenders had been killed. This include unionists, lawyers, journalists, and environmentalists. Doon sa 27,000, kasama ho dyan ay combination na ho ito ng police operation and vigilante killings. Although sinasabi ng kapulisan na mali naman na 27,000. Ano lang yan, 6 to 7,000. Pero regardless of numbers, still, hindi pa rin ito napapanagot. So ito ho ay sa kabila ng mismong pag-amin mismo ng gobyerno na mismo ang PNP failed to follow protocols in many drug operations. At lumalabas sa inamin mismo ho ni Department of Justice Secretary Gibaras sa meeting ho ng United Nations Human Rights Council that initial findings show that weapons allegedly recovered from those killed in the operations were not examined to check the police narrative that the drug personalities sought to resist arrest or that they fought back. No verification of its ownership was taken and no request for ballistic examination or paraffin test was pursued until its completion. Hindi na ho ito bago kasi bago pa man yan, sinabi na ho yan ng mga report ng CHR, bago pa man yan, sinabi na rin ho ng Amnesty International na doon sa kanilang investigasyon na sinagawa, lumalabas na doon sa mga police operation na nanlaban di umano yung mga suspected drug dealers at mga drug users, lumalabas na yung baril na ginamit ay pare-parehas ho yung serial number. Magkakaibang sitwasyon, magkakaibang panahon, magkakaibang lugar, and yet ang serial number ay isa. So mayroong pagdududa. Kaya kahit kami mismo sa aming mga investigasyon, lumalabas yung brutality ng anti-drug campaign, it indicates possible abuse of strength intent to kill. Ayon ho sa statement ng aming Commissioner Pimentel Gana na sinigundahan ho yan ng forensic pathologist expert na si Dr. Raquel Fortun na kung saan sinasabi niya on her findings on the fatalities of the Duterte drug war, generally, the perpetrators or shooters aim for the chest and head. So they're really meant to kill. If you aim for the head or the chest and shoot somebody several times, that is not an argument for immobilizing or self-defense. Yun ho yung isang problema. At mismo sinasabi ng Korte Suprema, the court ruled that the location of the deceased aggressors' gunshot wounds may suggest an intent to kill and not merely to defend oneself. Kaya nga ho ang aming panawagan sa CHR that invoking self-defense or nanlaban as a justifying circumstance should be determined by a competent court and cannot be merely asserted without trial of facts. Ilitin namin, CHR is not against waging war against illegal drugs. We are against how the war is being waged. Simple ho ang aming panuntunan, full and proper enforcement of the law, siguraduhin na nare-respeto ang mga constitutional legal rights natin tulad ng right to due process, ng right to life, right to presumption of innocence at iba pa. Yun lang din naman ho ang aming hiling sa gobyerno, that we should end impunity. Anong ibig sabihin ng impunity? Yung impossibility of bringing the perpetrators' violation to account. Matitigil lamang ho yung patuloy na paglabag sa karapatang pantao at paglabag sa rule of law kung magagawa ho nating mapanagot yung mga perpetrator ho na lumalabag sa ating mga karapatang pantao. At sabi nga ho dyan ni Marcos Tullius Ticero, the hope of impunity is the greatest inducement to do wrong. At sabi nga ho ni Rigoberta Menchio Tum, without a strong watchdog institution, impunity becomes the very foundation upon which system of corruption are built. Kaya ho napakahalaga ng katulad ho namin sa Commission on Human Rights, napakahalaga din ho ng papel ng mga civil society organization at napakahalaga ng papel ho ng bawat isa. Kasi kahit nga ho yung kaso na natagtagumpay nating napanagot yung kapulisan sa pananalbahe ho kay Kian de los Santos, nagawa ho ito. Una, dahil na-capture ng CCTV camera. Pangalawa, dahil mayroong public outcry. Kaya mahalaga ho yung papel ng bawat isa sa atin. Kaya ho si CHR as the country's independent national human rights institution shall continue to remind the government of its commitments made before the international community as well as its inherent obligation in upholding human rights for all. At the same time, we continue to urge the public, kayo po, to ask the government to do more and better in reducing violence on the ground and in respecting the human dignity of every individual. Tatandaan ho natin na anumang karapatan ho na tinatamasa natin, anumang kalayaan na tinatamasa natin ngayon ay hindi ho ilibre. Kayo ho, saksi na sa mismong Mindiola, ito ho ay katas ng aktivismo, katas ng pagkilos ng mamamayan para kamtin yung kanyang mga karapatan. Mga karapatan hindi naman din kusang ibinigay sa atin. Tulad ng equal representation, yung right to vote, yung minimum wage at iba pa. Ito ho ay katas ng pakikibaka ho ng marami ng mga naunang henerasyon sa atin upang ang mga karapatan natin ngayon ay kinakailangan nating tamasahin. At sa dulo, ang amin hong panawagan, we should get up and stand up. Wala hong magkiklaim ng ating karapatan, wala akong makikipaglaban para sa ating karapatan kundi ho tayo mismo. So ang aming panindigan, inikahit ho namin kayo na patuloy na manindigan sa inyong mga karapatan at higit lalo sa mga karapatan ng mga taong walang kakayahang ipaglaban ito. We could not be neutral in situation of injustices because if we are neutral in situation of injustices, we have chosen the side of the oppressor. Ang sabi nga ho dyan ni Albert Einstein, the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil but by those who watch them without doing anything. Mabuhay po tayo at maraming salamat.
Thank you so much, Mr. Melchor V. Cayabyab, for the informative discussion regarding Philippine democracy. With your words, our perspective about democracy has widened indeed. Thank you for the eye-opening talk and more power to CHR. Partner, nakatutuwa namang malaman na as of the moment, we have 208 participants here in Zoom. Thank you po for being with us here in our program.
Tama, partner. Kaya naman, we are now proceeding to our open forum. For those who have questions, please send your queries in the chat box. We will be reading your questions. While waiting for your questions, we would like first to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Bessie Cruz, Mrs. Leia Tabile, and Mr. Eugene Mark Serra from TEU Makati, and Mr. Eduardo Riparip. Welcome po sa aming event. Ang unang tanong po ay mula kay Ms. Margaret Meneses. Bilang isang constitutional body, paano po ninyo napapanatili ang inyong tungkulin sa kabila ng pambabatikos mula sa kasalukuyang administrasyon at panatiko nito?
Totoo naman, Miss Gabriel,
Gabriel po.
Gabriel, Miss Gabriel. Actually, pag tinignan ho ninyo yung aming Facebook page, kita nyo ho, araw-araw minumuto, nandun ho yung atake ng mga trolls at mga banta ho sa aming trabaho. Pero malinaw naman ho yung commitment ho ni CHR, kami ho bawat empleyado. Hindi ho kami non-partisan ho kami, so hindi ho kami nakikilahok sa tawag dito, wala ho kaming preference kung sino ho yung Pangulo. Kami lang ho ay nandoon lagi ho doon sa usapin ng pamamayani ng tinatawag nating universally accepted principles of human rights. So ganoon lang din ho kami. Nakapokus na ho kami, regardless, hindi ho namin iniintindi yung pag-atake, lalo na kung wala naman hong batayan. Katunayan ay may mga adjustment din ho kaming ginawa for the purpose din na masagot din ho yung iba. Halimbawa, sinasabi nila puro lang daw ho kaming puna. Pero yun naman ho talaga kasi yung mandato namin, ang magbantay sa pamahalaan, ang i-monitor ang kanyang compliance. Basically, yun ho sa ilalim ng 1987 Constitution. Pero sabi nila puro lang kayo puna, hindi naman ho kayo pumupuri. Pero makikita nyo rin ho sa aming FB page, nagsimula din ho kami na magbigay ho ng maparangal doon sa mga ginagawa ng gobyerno na actually hindi naman ho dapat namin ho gawin. Pero para lang ipakita din ho sa kanila na purihin yung mga mabubuting gawa, purihin yung mga naangkop para sa karapatang pantao. Ngayon nga hong December, kami ho ay magkagawa ho ng gawad karapatang pantao para sa mga iba't ibang ahensya ng gobyerno. Ito ho sa paraan din ho namin na gawing positive din ho yung konsepto ng human rights at hindi ho kami kalaban, nandito ho kami para tumulong at siguraduhin ang yung gobyerno na gagampanan ho nila yung kanilang gawain regardless kung sino man ang Pangulo ng bansa.
Maraming salamat po. Para po sa pangalawang katanungan, may I call on Mr. Renz Fernandez to personally ask the question.
Magandang araw po, Sir Cayabyab, at ito po ang tanong ko po sa inyo. 4 decades ago po, nagkaroon din po ng ganitong pangyayari sa ating bansa. Ano pong masasabi nyo sa mga nagpapakalat ng disinformation lalo na't sinasabi na wala daw pong tinorture, pinatay o kinulong dahil sa kanilang ideolohiyang politikal?
Maganda yung sagot mo, Renz. By the way, thank you, Renz, sa invitation. Ito ho ay naging dahil ho sa effort din ni Renz. Basically, ay anumang pagsasabi na walang tinorture, walang human rights violation ay isang fake news. Kasi ho, nirecognize mismo ng batas, ng Republic Act 10368. I-search po natin, ito po yung human rights violations, victims recognition reparation law Act of 2013, which is ni-recognize mismo ng gobyerno sa ilalim ho ng batas na ito, na una, may paglabag sa karapatang pantao. So, 11,000 na ho sa ilalim ho noong 2019. Ito ho ay sa panahon ni President Duterte, ang binayaran ho ng gobyerno na mga human rights victims. Ibig sabihin, kung may binabayaran ng danyos, therefore may totoong biktima. Actually, ang nag-apply is 76,000. Pero ang pumasa lang ho sa processing, dahil ho, mahigpit yung batas na kinakailangan ng documentations around 11,000. So meron hong nagbayad na, nirecognize ng gobyerno na meron siyang pananagutan na may paglabag ng panahon ng martial law. At hindi lamang ang simple recognition. Inadmit niya na ito ay kanyang pananagutan. Kaya nga ho siya nagbayad ng reparation. At ang ibinayad niya ay 10 bilyong piso mula sa 174 billion pesos na nabawing nakaw na yaman ng mga Marcoses, na kung saan ay with finality ng desisyon ng Supreme Court noong 2002 na dineklara na ito ay ill-gotten wealth. Anong ibig sabihin? Dahil hindi mapatunayan ng mga Marcoses na meron silang kapasidad na mayroong ganong karaming pera sa mga Swiss banks accounts nila, sinasabi ito ay nakaw na yaman. So dalawa hong pinatunayan ng Republic Act 368. Una, may totoong paglabag sa karapatang pantao, may admission ng gobyerno, may mga biktima na discredited binayaran. Ikalawa, mayroong totoong nakaw na yaman. At yan ho ay isang katotohanan na nire-recognize ng Republic Act 10368.
Thank you po. May follow-up po ako. One of the Republic Act po na sinabi nyo ay permado po ng dating Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile, na naging isa po sa mga architect ng martial law, and according po sa isa sa kanyang mga interview, na nung panahong martial law daw po, kaya ko rin po nasabi yung tanong na yun, is sa kanya po mismo nang galing na wala daw pong tinorture, pinatay, or pinakulong dahil sa political ideology. Pero isa rin po siya sa pumerma doon sa Human Rights Violation Reparation Act po na sinasabi. Ano po yung stand nyo within this na nagkakaroon po ng ibang naratibo sa panig po ni former Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile?
Una, maganda yun. Mismo sa fact-checking, lumabas na nga na mukhang may inconsistency. Sabi ni Juan Ponce, ni JPE, walang paglabag. Pero siya mismo ay pumirma ng batas na kumikilala na meron hong naganap na pag-torture at ina-admit ng gobyerno at yung pananagutan at nagbabayad ito. Ngayon, yung tanong, bakit nananatili yung ganitong klaseng naratibo? Isang dahilan, masakit man yung katotohanan, isa itong responsibilidad ng maraming kaming mga guro na bigo na ipaliwanag ang madilim na bahagi ng martial law ng diktadoryang Marcos sa marami. Kaya nga ho siguro madaling nabilog yung marami kasi nga dahil mukhang hindi namin naipaliwanag ng tama at nakakalungkot. Pag tinignan nyo din kahit sa social media, lumalabas ang pinakamarami ding nagsishare na walang paglabag sa karapatang pantao nung unang panahon ay mga pampublikong guro. Sinasabi ko to kasi makilala ko yung mga nakikita ko. So nakakalungkot yung ganitong bahagi. Kaya ho malaki yung bahagi na dapat gampanan ng papel ng mga guro para ito ho ay ipaliwanag. At kayo bilang mga political science students, napakalaki ng papel ninyo para tignan at actually may sapat na ebidensya, may mga librong nabuo, kumpleto ang mga records, pero nakakatakot na mas pinili ng iba na maniwala sa TikTok, maniwala sa sinasabi sa YouTube, maniwala sa sinasabi sa Facebook. So medyo nakakalungkot na bahagi. Pero ito ay hamon ho sa bawat sa atin, hindi lamang ho sa Commission on Human Rights, kundi obligasyon at trabaho ng lahat tayo, lalo na ho kayo sa hanay ng kabataan kasi mas idealistic, mas maraming oras, mas may kapasidad na kumpara sa amin na mayroon ng mga iba pang mga responsibilidad at tumatanda na, di ba? Mas nagiging mahirap para sa amin yung paggampan ng tungkulin nito. Na ito ay tingin ko malaking papel na gampanin ng kabataan.
Thank you po. Mr. Dominic Este Guzman asked, what are the violations ABS-CBN committed that great majority members of Congress voted not to grant ABS-CBN?
Medyo nakakalungkot yan sa usapin ng ABS-CBN. Una, nakakalungkot kasi sa dami ng ibinatong mga issue. Una, sinasabi hindi raw nagbabayad ng tax, pero mismong BIR ang nagsabi na wala namang tax violation o pagkakautang ang ABS-CBN. Sinasabi na meron daw paglabag sa praktisa, pero yung National Telecommunication mismo nagsasabi na wala din naman paglabag. Meron din daw na paglabag sa Department of Labor. Oo, may mga nakasampang kaso pero hindi sapat na dahilan para tanggalan ng prangkisa. kahit yung NTC na sinasabing paglabag ng mailang bahagi, sa totoo 200 pesos nga lang yung penalty. 'Di ba? Nung paglabag nila sa usapin ng yung tawag dito, yung pag 'di ba, parang digital na proseso ng kanilang channel at iba pa. Pero mga maliliit na dahilan, hindi sapat na dahilan para muling para tanggalan sila ng prangkisa. Which is hindi ko maintindihan sa Kongreso kung bakit nila ito nagawa. Although malinaw na sa mga naging pronouncement ni Pangulong Duterte ay may tulak talaga sa kanyang bahagi na ipasara o tanggalan ng prangkisa ang ABS-CBN. Nakakalungkot na bahagi ito dahil sinasabi nga namin hindi lang ho doon sa nawalan ng trabaho. Actually, hindi lang din ho, una malaking tulong din na walan ng maraming access yung marami sa usapin ng istorya lalo sa panahon ng kalamidad. At ang pinakamasaklap, may epekto ho talaga ito sa marami. Sa iba pang mga journalist para mas maging matapang na magmulat, matapang na magpahayag at mamahayag. Which is ito ho yung isa sa chilling effect ng tinatawag nating atake ho sa ABS-CBN.
Thank you po for that answer.
Actually, dagdag ko lang din ho. Maganda example sinasabi, walang chilling effect. Pero alam niyo ho ba, aaminin ko ho ito in public, na kahit ho kami sa Commission on Human Rights, matapos yung 2017, ay meron, medyo takot na rin. Tatandaan niyo every year na tuwing merong budget hearing after 2017, merong pakiramdam ang marami sa amin na sa panahon ng budget hearing, manahimik para hindi ho maapektuhan yung aming budget. So yun ba yung hindi chilling effect? Di ba? From 2017, 2018, 2019, hanggang itong 2021, pag-usapin ng budget hearing, sensitive ang bawat isa na hindi basta-basta mag-post sa social media against sa gobyerno, against sa pamahalaan. Medyo nakakatakot ho ito. Ganun din sa tingin ko ang pakiramdam ng maraming mga journalist na nag-iingat na hindi makapagsalita o makanti ang Malacanang.
Salamat po, Mr. Kayabyab. Now for the next question, may I call on Mr. Gabriel Santos?
Thank you. Good morning po, Mr. Kayabyab. I have this question po. As voting participation is one of the tenets of democratic society, what is your stand on possible disenfranchisement of eligible voters who are COVID positive or exposed on May 9, 2022, since there are inconsistent news on the rules and regulations about it? Thank you po.
Okay, Gabriel, actually totoo yung sinasabi mo. Kahapon lang ay nasa isang meeting ako na para buuin yung bantay karapatan sa halalan. At isa sa mga issue yung disenfranchisement, particularly sa panahon ng pandemya. Ang paliwanag naman diyan ng COMELEC, i-ensure nila na may separate na place para doon sa mga COVID-19 positive para makaboto. Kung paano nila gagawin yon, medyo mahirap, pero yun naman yung commitment. Actually, sinasabi nila, nagawa naman daw nila ito sa Palawan, yung plebisito sa Palawan, itong mga nagdaan. So, yung naging plebisito sa Palawan, yun yung example nila na posibleng gawin nila for 2022 election. Pero sana hindi ma-disenfranchise ang sino man na nais makaboto maging sa panahon ng tinatawag nating pandemya. Kasi ito ay isang mahalagang karapatan ng bawat isa.
Salamat po. And meron po siyang isa pang question. And the question is, what is the current state of the Anti-Enforced or Involuntary Disappearance Act of 2012?
Regular yung ugnayan namin doon sa mga pamilya tulad ng PINE, yung Family of Involuntary Disappearance, Victims of Involuntary Disappearance. Actually, kasama ito doon sa minomonitor. Masaklap, marami pa rin yung mga hindi, tawag dito, marami pa rin yung nadadagdag na kaso na sa kabila na meron na itong batas. Yun nga lang, of course, mas maliit na ito kung ikukumpara sa panahon na wala tayong batas. Malaki pa rin yung dapat ayusin at baguhin. Kami ho, kasama kasi sa aming trabaho din, ay i-monitor din ho yung compliance sa ilalim ng mga batas na ito. Ito rin ho yung aming minomonitor. Pero isa lang din ho malinaw, patuloy pa rin ho itong nagaganap. Marami pa rin mga kaso ng enforced disappearance ang hindi napapanagot at hindi nare-resolba. Mas mahirap nga itong kaso ng enforced disappearance kasi kapag na-EJK yung pamilya mo, yung kamag-anak mo, nakikita mo, pwede mong ilibing. Pero yung problema dito sa enforced disappearance, na hindi mo alam kung ano eksakto yung nangyari, na hindi mo wala kang ipalilibing na pamilya. Sa ngayon ay ito yung effort kasi mahalaga, gaya na binanggit ko kanina, matitigil lang yung mga bagay nito kung magagawa nating mapanagot o maputol yung impunity, yung culture of impunity na mayroon ho sa Pilipinas.
Thank you po. And for the next question, galing po ulit kay Sir Dominic De Guzman. What is the response of Supreme Court concerning anti-terrorism law?
Ngayon po is wala pa po. Wala pa.
Yung galing naman po kay Hannah, do you believe po na may connection ang pagtanggal sa franchise ng ABS-CBN and sa election next year?
Mahirap hong sagutin ho yan sa bahagi namin. Isa lang din ho malinaw na yung mismong pagtanggal sa prangkisa ng ABS-CBN ay isang paglabag sa freedom of expression at may chilling effect ho ito doon sa freedom of the press.
Thank you po for clarifying that. Meron po tayong isang katanungan from an anonymous person and the question is, ano po ang masasabi nyo sa mga tao na nagsasabi na bakit puro puna kayo sa administrasyon ni PRRD?
Simple lang, trabaho lang ho. Sa ilalim ng mandato namin, kami po ay watchdog at the same time ay nagmo-monitor ho ng compliance ng gobyerno. Trabaho lang din ho sa bahagi ho namin. Yun ho kasi ang mandato namin. At kung hindi naman ho namin gagawin yung aming mandato, wala hong dahilan para mag-exist pa kami.
Salamat po. And for the last question, we have a question from Ms. Alma Galvez. And the question po is, will CHR push for stricter policies to ensure accountability on the part of the government than just settle for monetary compensation for the victims of human rights violation?
Okay, tama po siya. Hindi naman ho sapat talaga yung reparation lang. Actually, sa karanasan, ito na ho yung pinakamalaking inabante. Pero sa dulo, dapat hong mapanagot natin yung mga na-involved sa pag-torture, yung na-involved sa arbitrary detention, yung mga na-involved sa enforced disappearance at iba pa. Tanging sa ganung bagay lang ho maihinto yung tinatawag ho nating culture of impunity. Pero masaklap po yung katotohanan, mahirap gawin. Lalo na ho sa part ni CHR dahil kami ho ay ang aming kapangyarihan ay hanggang investigation lamang. Wala ho kaming prosecutory power at limited din ho yung aming resources. Nasa 600 plus lang ho kami sa buong Pilipinas at ang aming budget ho ay mahigit lang ho sa mahigit lang ho sa 500 million pesos. Wala pa ho 1 billion yung aming budget.
Thank you so much po again, Mr. Cayabyab, for answering all the questions. And to our viewers, as much as we want to answer your questions pa, but we have to conclude our open forum due to time constraints. But don't worry, if you still have unanswered questions left, we will be collecting your inquiries na lang and forward them to our speaker. We will notify you of their answers through our Facebook page.
So be sure to like and follow the CEU Political Science Society for further updates. Tingin na lang kayo guys sa comment section, mag-send kami ng link dyan.
Okay, so paalam na po ako. So punta muna ako sa isang meeting pa ulit. Salamat, Renz!
May certificate of appreciation po kami. So at this moment, we would like to extend our utmost gratitude to our guest speaker for today's morning discussion. May we request our CEU Political Science Society advisor, Professor Julius O. De Leon, to present the certificate of appreciation.
So allow me to read the citation. Central Escolar University, School of Education, Liberal Arts, Music, Social Work, Political Science Society awards the Certificate of Appreciation given to Mr. Melchor B. Cayabyab as resource speaker during the Political Science Society First General Assembly, SULONG, the Philippine Democracy in the 21st Century, given this 23rd day of October 2021 via Zoom and Facebook Live at the CEU Political Science page. Signed, Mr. Renz A. Dan Fernandez, President, then yours truly, the head of the Political Science Program, and Dr. Maria Rita D. Lucas, the Dean of the School of Education, Liberal Arts, Music, and Social Work. So thank you very much, dear Mr. Kayabyab.
Maraming salamat din, Sir Julius.
Once again, thank you, Mr. Kayabyab. And now may we request everyone to turn on their cameras for a photo op with Mr. Melchor V. Kayabyab.
May we also call on the documentation committee to screenshot. Just give us a signal if we can smile na.
Kayo ready na po ba? 1, 2, 3. Wait lang po. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you po.
Thank you. Once again, thank you po, Mr. Melchor V. Kayabyab, for attending our first event for the school year 2021 to 2022. Ngayon, tumungo naman na tayo sa mga video messages ng ating iba pang mga guest speakers na talaga namang marami pang mga maibabahaging impormasyon sa atin tungkol sa kahalagahan ng demokrasya ngayong 21st century.
And to further inform us on this topic, together, let us listen and watch the video messages that were sent to us by the other speakers. Starting with the message of Attorney Jacqueline M. De Guia, the Executive Director and Spokesperson of CHR. The message will be delivered by Mr. Ivan Mark Gomez, the Political Science Society's auditor.
Pagbati sa Centro Escolar University, Political Science Society para sa inyong General Assembly, maging sa mga opisyal at propesor ng CEU at mga organizers ng pagtitipong ito ngayong umaga. Sa mga ganitong pagkakataon, ay lalong nabubuhayan kaming mga nasa Commission on Human Rights ng pag-asa dahil nakikita namin ang pagsisigasig ng mga kabataan, pag-usapan ang mga issue ng bayan at lapatan ito ng mga solusyon para sa ikabubuti ng marami. Gone are days when young people are seen as powerless. We recognize the participation of students in the umbrella movement in calling for transparent elections in Hong Kong. There are also young change makers in other parts of the world, such as Nobel Peace Prize laureate Malala Yousafzai, who stood up for the right to education of all, especially women and girls in Taliban. We also have Greta Thunberg, who continue to call for immediate action for climate change mitigation. In the Philippines, we also honor our young human rights advocates and defenders who continue to be vigilant against many forms of abuses and violations, including those that challenge academic freedom, freedom of expression, and the rights of other sectors. To date, we face daunting challenges as a nation. We have an ailing human rights situation in the country. We see human rights violations everywhere. In fact, the UN Human Rights Office in 2020 reports a trend of widespread and systematic human rights violations and persistent impunity in the country. To add, in the past 4 years, the state of press freedom has been a continuous decline. The latest 2021 World Justice Project Rule of Law Index records 51 spot drop for the country, now ranking the Philippines 102nd out of 139 country and 13 out of 15 in East Asia and Asia Pacific, making us one of the worst in upholding the rule of law in the region. This means that Filipinos are finding it hard seeking justice and accountability for crimes and offenses made. Our democratic space is also shrinking. There are reports on crackdowns on dissent. Human rights advocates, including media, lawyers, and activists are harassed and worse, even killed. And the CHR's independent mandate in seeking truth behind violations of rights is repeatedly being challenged. The present COVID-19 pandemic has also been used to justify curtailment of rights, even as we at CHR continuously remind all duty bearers, particularly the government, that the human rights and human dignity should be upheld and respected at all times and in all situations. This picture is far from the democracy we imagine after the fall of the Marcos dictatorship. And definitely, if we are to preserve the freedoms we cherish, we too must take burden of sustained vigilance against the overreach of power. It has been said, quote, "The price of freedom is eternal vigilance, end quote. But change requires powers. The unfortunate reality, however, is that while we speak of young people taking the lead, a number of young individuals remain invisible or kept at the sidelines. Not all young individuals are in the same footing or even have access to opportunities to assert change. Not everyone is on social media to air their grievances. Not everyone has access to remedies when they are aggrieved, and not all young people are taken seriously, even by those in power. And so, one of the crucial advices to the youth in protecting our democracy and our freedoms is to look out for each other. Those who have the platform to be heard must be lend their voices to the voiceless and invisible youth. At the same time, it is not only important that we encourage the youth to have a stake in charting the nation's future, but we should also create the space and opportunity for them to sow. Real meaningful change can only happen if young individuals are not only heard but are also allowed to participate. The socio-economic and political environments of young individuals, however, greatly impact their ability to participate in community life. To address this, institutions must equally recognize the gamut of rights that a young person needs to live a full, dignified, and meaningful life. We are reminded of the wisdom from Jose Ca Pepe Jokno, a Filipino nationalist lawyer, statesman, and one of the leading human rights defenders of his time. He said, quote, human rights are more than legal concepts. They are the essence of man. They are what makes a man human. That's why they are called human rights. We want everyone We want everyone to embrace the idea that the best way to protect our democracy is by empowering the people, and we do so by continuously asserting our human rights and dignity, even as most especially in the face of authoritarian tendency. Finally, Jose Rizal, our national hero, said, quote, what is freedom for? If the oppressed of today shall be the ones to oppress in the future, end quote. Years from now, some of you will occupy positions of power, and we hope that when the day comes, we cut the cycle of intergenerational abuse and corruption, and you choose not be part of the system that oppresses and disregards freedoms. Please look out for the least laws and lasts in our country. When it gets tough and challenging, always remember what Kapepe also said, quote, no cause is more worthy than the cause of human rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez and Attorney De Guia. Now, let us move on to the second video message from one of the senators of the 18th Congress, Honorable Risa Hontiveros.
Magandang araw, Centro Escolar University. Thank you to the CEU Political Science Society for taking the time to organize this event. Thank you to all you students who are here to discuss what we sometimes fail to defend, our democracy. A few days ago, journalist Maria Ressa won the Nobel Peace Prize for her efforts to safeguard freedom of expression, a precondition for any healthy, functioning democracy. Before this, and even now, she has been on the receiving end of relentless attacks for exposing the cruelties of the state and for doing her job as a journalist to uncover the truth. Maria Ressa is the first Filipino to have received this prestigious award. But as of this moment, Malacanang, the highest office of our country, still has not issued a statement recognizing this remarkable feat. Doesn't this speak volumes on the state of our democracy? Let's also take a look at our own lives. Have you ever wanted to post a Facebook status or a tweet that may be critical of government, but you didn't because you felt scared? Have you stopped engaging in political discourse, say online, because it often only resulted in trolls harassing you? Have you ever wanted to discuss your dissenting views with people, even with family or friends, but felt afraid? This is what's most insidious about those who try to suppress our democracy. They want us to be silent. They want us to cower. But what I think they forget is that the Filipino spirit is not easily defeated. The Filipino spirit has time and again shown courage in the midst of cruelty, of abuse. We need to tap into our reservoirs of courage. It will be our collective courage that will put an end to threats, to intimidation, to violence. Hosting this event alone, coming here to join this discussion, already shows that you have courage. And when more and more of you young people feel less and less afraid about simply speaking out, I have no doubt that we can win against fear, that we can fight against terror, that we can keep our democracy alive. Thank you very much, CEU. I hope you are all staying safe and healthy. Salamat muli for wanting to protect and defend our democracy.
Grabe, partner. Ang ganda ng mensahe na ibinigay sa atin ni Senator Hontiveros. Tunay ngang nagbigay lalim pa ito sa konsepto ng demokrasya. Now, for the last video, let us watch with an open ear the message of the Vice President of the Republic of the Philippines, Her Excellency Maria Leonor Leni Robredo.
Hello sa students and faculty ng Centro Escolar University Manila, Political Science Department, at sa lahat ng kasama natin sa SULONG, the Philippine Democracy in the 21st Century. Malaki ang hamon ng panahon natin. Patuloy ang pagdami ng nagugutom, naghihirap, at namamatay. Ang pakiramdam ng marami sa atin, lalo sa laylayan, parang pinabayaan na lang tayo ng gobyerno. Kasabay nito, it seems like everywhere we look, the rights and freedoms that we have long thought inalienable are being challenged, brushed aside, and violated. Maraming oras at energy ang tinututok sa pagpasa ng mga batas tulad ng anti-terror law, sa pagbawi sa prangkisa ng ABS-CBN, sa panggigipit sa mga binansagang kaaway ng nasa poder, ordinaryong Pilipino man o mga nasa oposisyon. As students of political science, malinaw sa inyo ang ugat ng lahat ng ito. Bad governance, nadala ng bulok at lumang klase ng politika. Malinaw din ang way forward. Panahon na para talikuran at palitan natin ito. Hindi lang apelyido ng mga nasa pwesto, pero pati na yung mismong sistema ng korupsyon, yung incompetence, yung kawalan ng malasakit at integridad ng liderato. Ang tugon natin dito, matino at mahusay na pamumuno. A government with competence and integrity. A government that is honest and accountable. A government that puts the interests of the Filipino people front and center. With this kind of governance in place, imagine how much loss we could have avoided, how much progress we could have gained, how much our democracy could have grown. With over 6 million newly registered voters for the coming elections, nasa kamay ninyong kabataan ang susi para magawa ito. Makilahok sa demokrasya, magparehistro at bumoto upang siguruhing isasalamin ng pamunuan ang mga prinsipyo at pangarap ng taong bayan. Use your voice to speak out against lies, injustice, and corruption. Tumindig tayo para magkaroon ng lakas ng loob na tumindig din ang mga katabi natin. Kung magsasanib ang lakas ng lahat, tiwala akong mapapanday natin yung pangarap nating better normal sa pundasyon ng matino at mahusay na pamumuno. Isang mundong mas patas, mas makatarungan at mas makatao. Maraming salamat, mabuhay kayong lahat.
Nakaka-inspire naman ang mensahe ni Vice President Leni, di ba, partner? Kaya thank you, Attorney De Guia, Senator Ontiveros, and Vice President Leni Robredo for taking the time out of their day to record these short messages for us. Marami ba kayong natutunan, fellow Escolarians? If yes, give us heart reactions naman dyan.
Sure ako na siksik, liglig at nag-uumapaw ang ating natutunan today about democracy. Kaya naman, if you like to share what we have talked about today, visit and like the Facebook page of CEU Political Science Society and share the recorded video of today's event sa inyong social media.
Tama. But before we proceed to the next part of the program, we are giving you a 3-minute break para naman mas ma-absorb pa natin ang mga natutunan natin for the day. We will be right back after 3 minutes. Welcome back, Escolarians. At this juncture, we are now on the second part of the program. But before that, let's first listen to the performance of a fellow Pol Sci student, Mr. Olivian Castro, as he serenades us with the song, Nakikinig Ka Ba Sa Akin by Ben and Ben.
Sasalubungin kita sa dulo ng iyong galing. Tuturuan kita para di tayo maging epidemyang di pag-asa ng salarin. Tayo ba ay naging makasarili? Sarado bang tenga sa mga hiling? Makikinig ka ba sa akin? Hindi kita gustong awayin. Pareho ang ating hangarin. Kadiliman ay basagin. Kung meron kang pupurihin, sige lang gawin mo yan. Kung meron kang pabatikusin, sige lang gawin mo yan. Mahalaga bawat isa'y mapakinggan. Nakikinig ka ba sa akin? Hindi kita gustong awayin. Pareho ang ating hangarin. Ang kadiliman ay basagin. Patawad na sa pagkukulang, naririnig kita. Nakikinig ka ba sa akin? Hindi kita gustong awayin. Pareho ang ating hangarin. Ang kadiliman ay basagin. Nakikinig ka ba sa akin? Ang bukas ay ating yakapin. Pareho ang ating hangarin. Ang kadiliman ay basagin. Nakikinig ka ba? Nakikinig ka ba? Nakikinig ka ba? Nakikinig ka ba? Sasalubungin kita sa dulo ng iyong galing.
Oo naman, ang ganda ng mensahe ng kanta. Sobrang relevant sa ating bansa ngayon. Magpapa-hashtag support OPM music ka na lang talaga.
Tama ka dyan, partner. Basta Polsay, talagang mahusay. Marahil marami sa inyo ang hindi nakakaalam, pero the CEU Political Science Society is a dream come true, not just to us, but also to the past generations of CEU Polsci students. Because for so many years, this is the only time na natuloy ang formation ng ating sariling organization. Kaya naman, without further ado, let us meet the history makers and the pioneer officers of the Political Science Society for the school year 2021 to 2022.
Hi, I'm Mr. Julius O. De Leon, the advisor of the Political Science Society. I'm honored to present the officers of the organization for academic year 2021-2022. Thank you.
I am Renz Aiden J. Fernandez, President of the Political Science Society.
I am Joel Joshua Sanchez, Vice President of Political Science Society.
I am Nina Micaela Gutierrez, Secretary of the Political Science Society.
I am Jose Gabriel Bermudez, and I am the Treasurer.
of the Political Science Society.
I am Mark Ivan M. Gomez, Auditor of the Political Science Society.
I am Angelo Gabriel B. Barba, PRO of the Political Science Society.
At this juncture, let us discover what lies ahead of us. May we invite the Vice President of Political Science Society, Mr. Shael Joshua P. Sanchez, to take the spotlight for the presentation of the activities for the current school year.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shael Joshua Sanchez, the Vice President of the Political Science Society for the school year 2021 to 2022. Today, I will present the activities that we have in store for everyone for this coming school year. Up first, we have the General Assembly, which is what we are having today. It is dated October 23, 2021. The purpose of this event is to welcome the new members of the Political Science Society to the opening of the new school year. It is also to be transparent with the plans, the funds, and the activities of Political Science Society for this school year. Up next, we have the ASEAN integration. It is tentatively dated on October 2021. The purpose of this event is to empower the economic, social, and cultural integration of our identity. It is also to discuss the purpose and the goals of the ASEAN community. Up next is the Voters Education Seminar. This is tentatively dated on November 2021. The purpose of this event is to effectively inform the members to their rights and responsibilities in the electoral process. It is also to disseminate accurate and objective information in exercising one's right to vote. Up next is the presidential debate. The Political Science Society will invite the presidentials for the coming election, which is the 2022 elections, and we will ask them critical questions, and also questions about politics and our socio-economic status of the Philippines. The purpose of this event is to understand the platform, the stance, and the views of the certain candidates for the 2022 election. Up next is the second general meeting of the Political Science Society. It is tentatively dated on May 2022. In this General Assembly, we will discuss the interconnection between politics and health in the pandemic era. Also, we will discuss the overall accomplishments of Political Science Society of 2021 and 2022. Up next is the Ikamustahan, which will happen every month since starting this month until May. The purpose of this event is to encourage an open discussion between the members and also to promote and develop the camaraderie that we have inside the organization. Lastly, we will have the Political Science Podcast. This will last from October till April 2022. To establish the foundation of interaction among members, to build open discussion, to create a learning environment with entertainment. The Political Science Society will invite notable political figures and also figures in media, where we will ask them questions about socio-political issues and also about politics. All of these events will be held through Zoom, with the exclusion of the podcast that will be available through Spotify. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez, for informing us of the future events of the Political Science Society. Guys, nararamdaman niyo ba lalo ang excitement namin for the upcoming events? Ang dami pa palang activities ng PSS for the rest of the school year, kaya we hope to see you there, di ba, partner?
Tama ka dyan, partner. Please keep in touch with us all throughout the school year para sabay-sabay nating ma-experience ang kahusayan ng pagiging mag-aaral ng Polsci. And speaking of that, dahil na-mention na rin ni Mr. Sanchez ang ating podcast, please follow us on Spotify. Just look for Polsci Talk and abangan ang aming first episode this coming October 30. We will be guesting high-caliber personalities in the field of politics. Kaya naman, please support us and together, let's get educated for the benefit of the Filipino people.
Now, for the presentation of the financial status of the organization for the school year 2021 to 2022, may we have Mr. Jose Gabriel G. Bermudez, the Treasurer of the Political Science Society.
Good morning, beloved viewers and guests. As our organization just began the pursuit for its noble mission for nationalism and patrimony, we all face the challenges during these trying times of the pandemic. Thus, no collection of fees or any types of solicitation has been done. Our financial status as of October 23 is zero.
Thank you, Mr. Bermudez. Using pa ba tayo, Escolarians? Kung oo, please itype nyo naman ang hashtag I am registered sa comment section. And speaking of that, please don't forget to exercise your right to vote, diba, partner?
Exactly, partner. Tamang-tama ka dyan. Now, for the last presenter, may we request the Secretary of the Political Science Society, Ms. Nina Micaela D. Gutierrez, to talk about the total number of members of the PSS for this school year.
Good day, everyone. Once again, I'm Nina Gutierrez, Secretary of the Political Science Society. Today, I will be presenting the total number of members for the organization for the school year 2021 to 2022. Allow me to specify the number of members per each level for the political science program. We have, from the first year, we have 38 members. We have 25 members from the second year. We have 17 members from the third year, and we have 7 members from the fourth year. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all the presenters. Now, to strengthen our connections with other groups, let us hear the representatives of the following CEU organizations for their pledge of support, starting with Educators Rising,
Communication Arts Society,
Social Sciences Society,
School of Optometry Student Council, and School of Alum Student Council.
I am Josiel Caceres, the President of CEU Educators Rising, and I pledge to support the activities of Political Science Society.
I'm John Bolivar, the President of Communication Arts Society, and I pledge to support the activities of Political Science Society.
Magandang araw, PSS. Si Ayo Pangilinan po ito, ang kasalukuyang Pangulo ng Social Sciences Society. At narito ako upang ihayag ang kasiyahan ng aming samahan na sumuporta sa Political Science Society. Naniniwala kami na gaya ng Social Sciences Society, ang PSS ay tumutulong ipatulot ang pagbilinang ng pagkamakabayan at pambansang kamalayan sa mga Escolarians bilang mga pinuno sa hinaharap. Inaasahan namin ang pareho nating komunidad ay magsusuportahan at magtutulungan para sa katagumpayan ng lahat ng ating mga proyektong hinanda para sa buong taong ito. Mabuhay!
Patriotic greetings. I am Sienna Rose Almabuti, President of the Optometry Student Council, and I hereby pledge my support to all the activities of the Political Science Society for school year 2021 to 2022. May we have a productive and fruitful year ahead.
Matagumpay na bukas para sa ating lahat. Magandang araw para sa mga lingkod na naririto. Ako, si Margaret Mandy, ang kasalukuyang President ng SULONG Student Council, ay pinapahayag ang buong suporta ng aming konseho para sa mga programa ng Political Science Society sa taong ito. Sa gabay ni Sir Julius De Leon at sa pamumuno ni Renz Aiden Fernandez, katuwang ang iba pang opisyal, patid namin na mahusay nila mapaglilingkuran ang ating komunidad. Magiging kaisa namin sa paghasa ng magpiin ng bawat Escolarino at mahahanda sila upang maglingkod para sa bayan. Mabuhay Polsay, mabuhay ang SULONG.
Grabe, nakakataba naman ng puso ang inyong mga mensahe. That's why we would like to personally express our gratitude to these organizations for supporting the start of the Political Science Society.
And to conclude our program, let us hear the innovative President of the Political Science Society, Mr. Renz Aidan J. Fernandez, for the closing remarks.
Magandang umaga sa inyong lahat. Sabi nga ng dating Pangulong Abraham Lincoln sa kanyang Gettysburg Address, government of the people, by the people, and for the people. May 35 taon na ang nakararaan, nagkaisa ang mga Pilipino upang ibagsak ang rehimen at ibalik sa taong bayan ang kapangyarihan upang magkaroon ng kalayaan sa pagpapahayag, pamumuno at ekspresyon. Hindi naging madali sa ating mga Pilipino ang kampanyang ito dahil maraming nagbuwis ng buhay upang ang demokrasya ay matamasa natin ngayon. 3 dekada ang lumipas. Tila ang alimuom ng nakaraan ay nararamdaman na naman ng bawat isa sa atin. Sunod-sunod na opresyon sa malayang pamamahayag, pagpapakulong sa mga kritiko, at samot-saring disinformation na ang kumakalat sa mga plataporma, social media man o mass media. Ang ganitong uri ng mga gawain ay isa sa mga banta sa demokrasyang pilit nating ipinaglalaban para sa susunod pang henerasyon. Ang mga aktibidad ng Estado sa sektor ng pagpapahayag ay nagkakaroon ng chilling effect sa mga tao upang sumulat at express ang kanilang mga saloobin sa kasalukuyang klimang politikal. Kaya ang mga ganitong event ay isang paunang hakbang upang ang ating mga kabataan ay maging mulat sa kasalukuyang socio-political na klima sa ating bansa. Magsilbi itong aral at gabay sa ating mga kabataan at sa lahat ng mamamayan na tumindig upang ang demokrasya ay patuloy na yumabong na parang isang punong kahoy na magsisilbing lilim sa bawat isa sa atin. Lubos ang aking pasasalamat sa lahat ng sumuporta sa kauna-unang event ng CEU Political Science Society sa gitna ng kinakaharap nating pandemya. Sa ating resource speaker, Mr. Melchor Cayabyab, sa inyong napakamakabuluhang komentaryo tungkol sa kasalukuyang estado ng demokrasya sa Pilipinas. Sa ating Pangulo at Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Maria Cristina D. Padolina, sa pagsuporta at pagpapaunlak sa ating kauna-unahang webinar. Sa aming napakasipag na Dean, Dr. Maria Rita D. Lucas, para sa inyo pong walang sawang pagsuporta mula sa pagkakatatag ng Political Science Society hanggang sa aming kauna-unahang webinar. Sa aming kasalukuyang advisor at head ng Political Science Program, Sir Julius O. De Leon, sa inyong pong pagiging hands-on sa paghawak ng organization at paggabay sa amin upang maisakatuparan ang ganitong activities. At syempre, sa paglinang pa ng aming kakayahan sa diskursong politikal. Sa CEU Alumni Foundation at sa kanilang suportang teknikal upang maging mas upang maisakatuparan ng ganitong kaganda ang aming event. Maraming salamat din sa mga guro at mag-aaral na nakasama natin sa umagang ito. At syempre sa aking committee at co-officers na nagsakripisyo upang maisakatuparan ang una nating event. Nawa ay patuloy nyo pang suportahan ang iba pa naming aktibidad sa taong ito. Muli, maraming salamat sa inyong lahat at mabuhay ang Political Science Society.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez, for concluding our very first event. Thank you to everyone who attended our first ever program, and we hope that you learned a lot about the importance of democracy, especially in our political climate today.
For the evaluation form, please refer to the link given in the comments section and make sure to accomplish it within the day to claim your certificates. Indeed, it was a great honor to host the first ever Political Science Society's event, which is SULONG, the Philippine Democracy in the 21st Century. This has been your host, Alondra Marie Flores Santo Domingo.
And I am Gariel Shane as Francisco, saying thank you and stay safe. Non si Vicet Patriae.
At mabuhay ka, mahal naming pamantasan, Sentro Escolar.
Mabuhay ka, mahal naming pamantasan, papuri sa dakilang sentro eskolar. Ika'y dambana ng pag-ibig sa bayan, at agham na sa riyang matagumpay. Kapag ang diwa ng iyong mga hilig, magmula sa puso't bibig, sabay-sabay na ipasisigawan. Mabuhay ka, dakilang sentro eskolar. Mabuhay ka, mahal naming pamantasan, papuri sa dakilang sentro eskolar. Ika'y dambana ng pag-ibig sa bayan,